Okay, I am excited about this one. We've got Scott Jagodzinski here. He is the author of Harder to Kill, founder of Argent Alpha, and before that, really impressive career as a CEO. Led one company to a nine-figure exit, another basically turned around a loser to a multi-million-dollar company. But now he's focused on helping men over 50 stay strong, healthy, and purposeful. And that's how I met him on LinkedIn. Our content kind of clashed. This is something I've been focusing on, Scott, a lot. Just I'm interested in it. And for my clients, health is wealth is kind of where I've been going here with this podcast and with my content on LinkedIn and everything. So let's just start unpacking that. Making men harder to kill. That's what caught my attention. And why don't you just lead us in? What does that actually mean? And then we'll get into how to actually apply it.
You're listening to Advised with Rick Lucchini.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one, thanks for having me too. It's good to join you as a guest and talk to you and in your audience, and hopefully we can have some positive impact. So, well, to me, Harder to Kill, I'll give you a little bit of the backstory. I mean, it was 2019. I'd always been an athlete, worked out, never got out of control. Had ups and downs like anybody. When it came to maybe an extra 10 or 15 pounds, maybe even 20 pounds, but never, I wasn't the lost 100 pounds guy. So never too far from fighting weight. But, I got into CrossFit and did well at that this was like 10 years ago. And then when I was 50, and all of a sudden my knee started aching, and aching grew to pain, and pain grew to a loss of flexion to where I couldn't even ride a bike. I couldn't bend my knee enough. And even a mile walk was like I was limping. And it was like, okay. All of a sudden, the whole idea of what retirement meant was changing. It's like,
Yeah.
What am I handicapped now? Am I going to be parking in the nearest spot next to Costco and, having my little blue thing on the rear view mirror? And so anyway, that was my thing. It was bone on bone. And of course you go to the doctor, and the thing I learned there was never ask a barber if you need a haircut. You go to an orthopedic surgeon, they'll offer you a cortisone shot, which does nothing. It actually destroys the joint over time. It removes the pain, but doesn't solve anything. And then ultimately it was knee replacement. So 3 different orthos. I don't know why I had to hear from 3 different guys. And that's when I made the decision, I've got to figure this out myself. And I just thought, hey, I've got to be the CEO of my health. I can't outsource this to some doctor.
Yeah.
And that led down a whole thing of challenging assumptions about what I now call the sick care system, because it's not about health. The modern day sick care system is all about decline management. It's about pills and procedures, and it's not about root cause solutions. And so I figured it out. That's a whole other probably episode, but I between regenerative therapies like prolozone, PRP, and exosomes, and then also Ben Patrick, if you're familiar with knees over toes guy, doing his protocol for knees really helped. And the primary exercise there is walking backwards, ideally pulling weight. And you can do that walking backwards on a treadmill. So I got my knee fixed. And this was like, we had just sold, I just sold my interest in a company. COVID hits. I'm sitting there with some time on my hands. And that was when I was solving this problem. And it kind of hit me like, what other problems are guys facing? I knew weight was a problem for, did the research. 75 to 80% of men will be overweight or obese, either right now or by 2030, depending on what study you're looking at.
Yeah.
So, and that leads to all kinds of issues: chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, diabetes, stroke, heart disease. Literally every cause of death goes through the roof when you're fat. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. And
not to mention you feel like shit. I mean, you don't realize it because you felt that way for so long, but you really just aren't even enjoying. You're talking about shortening your life, but the life that you have is being reduced just because you're overweight too. It's just a compounding effect.
Yeah, it's so true. So anyway, I did a lot of research and I was implementing it for me. I was doing an N of 1. And what I realized was one of the things nobody measures, at least in the medical world, or very rarely, was body composition. And so when you dig in, you realize there's things like the in-body scan or the DEXA scan, things that get into, it's not about losing weight, it's about losing fat, specifically visceral fat, which is the fat that packs around the organs. And those are the ones that's the fat that's going to kill you. Mm-hmm. And then maintaining and increasing muscle mass, because as we age, sarcopenia, the natural loss of muscle, becomes a very real thing. And now there's some studies suggesting that this step is happening to people in their early 40s. And so, again, depending on the stats you read, you might lose 1 to 2% of your muscle mass per year. And as you age, it gets worse. And so my premise was, what if you could hold muscle mass constant, maybe increase it, drop your fat, specifically visceral fat? And I kept researching. It sounded like 15% body fat was the right number for men. Women, it's going to be higher. And 15% is an athletic, lean, highly functional body comp percentage to be at. And it gives you a little cushion to go up or down if you want to. So I tested that at work. Then I recruited 6 buddies to see, hey, let's see if this works. And it'll make me stick with it longer if I've got a
Yeah.
group of guys. And so we literally were doing this in my garage, like joking, like any startup. Now you had to go through a gated community to get to that garage, but
Right.
but it was, it was a bunch of guys working out in a garage
Yeah.
and doing stuff like burpees and pull-ups and wall sits and you name it. And it worked for these guys. I think not all of them were over 20% body fat. A couple, 2 or 3 were above 20%. The other ones were like maybe 16 to 19%. Every one of them got to 15% or below and have stayed there now. We're on year 4 of this. So that's a long answer to your story, but harder to kill is reversing a biological age. It's getting your body fat percent down to 15%, maybe a little bit lower to give yourself some cushion, and being able to be fully functional so that when you live your life, you go through healthspan, you live a high level life and then you expire.
Yeah.
And so versus this decline, and the typical American spends the last 20% of their life in a steady decline with frequent interactions with the sick care system. And it's just, it's no way to live. So I, decided, hey, I'm opting out of this and I'm going to bring a few guys along for the ride with me.
Yeah. And then you've built it into, you've written the book about it. And let's get into that a little bit, because when I go through that, I see 2 different things. I see a mindset shift, but then I also see actionable, like, do these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why this book's so powerful. It's let's go into the mindset first, because that's really where it all starts. And what's powerful to me is not accepting that I feel like shit because I'm 50 or because I'm 60. That's just what society tells me. I can't swing the golf club that fast anymore because I'm old, or I can't take that jog or ride my bike 6 miles, or I can't do those things anymore because I'm old. And that mindset shift of just not accepting that is, I think, the first start to owning your health. Why don't you talk a little bit about that and pull some ideas from the book, because it's really powerful.
Yeah. Well, one thing, if you look into The Biggest Loser and look at the follow-up stories of those participants, almost every one of them relapsed to where they were or worse.
Yeah.
And part of that was they still viewed themselves as the overweight or chubby or fat or person. So so they got into a controlled environment where they lost this weight, but they never changed how they thought of themselves or who they
Yeah.
thought of themselves as. And so when the controlled environment went away, they just went back to who they were.
Yeah.
And so the fundamental shift, and I'm going to give you 3 resources your listeners can tune into that influenced me. One is a book called Be Your Future Self Now by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. A lot of people know Hardy who are in business, but he's a great resource for personal development. Another one is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Most people have heard of that book. He talks about identity shift. And then another book I really like is Hero on a Mission by Donald Miller. And that's all about the stories that we tell ourselves, the roles we play in them, and how you're the author of your story and you get to choose the role you play.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things we talk about is, harder to kill is kind of the hook that gets guys. They want to become harder to kill. They want to get good at pull-ups and strong, but it's the 12 inches between the ears that has to change. And so we spend a lot of time on future self. And when that becomes vivid and clear, and you'll update this every 6 to 12 months as you make progress, when that becomes clear, that becomes the thing that pulls you forward. And so I like to use this metaphor of, if you're on planet current self, you have a gravitational pull. There's gravity. To achieve escape velocity, to get to the future self planet, you've got to have a clear identity and a clear why. Otherwise, you're just going to stay stuck as whatever you are. And those limiting beliefs, those habits, those daily rituals, those stories you tell themselves are going to stay the same.
Yeah.
So you can't do it with motivation or quotes on the wall. I mean, those things are cool, but you got to change who you think you are.
Yeah. And I think that's something, especially going into retirement, that I talk a lot about that's dangerous is a lot of these guys have their, whether they realize it or not, have their identity tied up in what they do,
Uh-huh.
and they don't actually have a plan on what to do for retirement. They're retiring away from their job that's consuming them and stressing them out, but not necessarily to something.
Uh-huh.
And so when they strip that identity and then don't have anything to fight for, a worthy ideal, now all of a sudden they find themselves sitting around, sinking into the lazy boy, maybe even becoming depressed because you don't have that drive to get up and work for something. And I think your health is a great reason to get up in the morning.
Yeah, and I think it's any age. Donald Miller talks about it. Let's use a career as an example. You're about to retire, so that story's coming to an end. The credits are going to roll, and you're going to be facing a blank screen. So you don't want to be facing a blank screen.
Right.
So you have to create the story when you're in that third act, that last act of whatever your current story is. You need to be writing that script, and so when the credits roll, you just start the next film, the next story. And when you do that, one, you've already thought through your why, where you're going to spend time. You were referencing Earl Nightingale's quote of success, the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. You'll identify what that worthy ideal is, and you don't even have to be right necessarily. You could pivot on that thing.
Yeah.
But I agree 100%. You have to have something. Otherwise, what are your defaults? For a lot of guys, it's drinking, it's golf. Let me put it this way. It's not activities that are conducive to a healthy, longevity style lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's probably the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. So tell us what some guys can do to get started. Like, hey, I know you've got a lot of stuff laid out in the book. Like, hey, here's step one, here's step two, some fundamentals that you should really focus on, some kind of like areas that you want to focus on that then can branch out to other things.
Yeah, I think, well, developing version one of your future self is where I probably would tell everybody to start and say, just pick 1 year from now. I'll use you for example. Hey, Rick, what is Rick 1 year from now? What does he look like? Where does he live? What kind of money is he making? How fast can he run a mile? What's his bench press? What's his body fat? I mean, I would paint a vivid picture of who that guy is. And that becomes that's the beginning with the end in mind. Now you'll figure out the how. The how always takes care of itself. People get so bent out of shape about the how. You got to figure out your why. And so figure out that future self. And then the next thing I would do is you need to move from default standards to design standards in life. And we focus on 5. We focus on mindset, sleep, nutrition, fitness, and hydration. And so everybody has a standard in every one of those areas. The problem is it's usually a default standard. And so not having a standard is a standard.
Yeah.
And so when you design something, it could be as simple as, for an average guy out there, your future self might be, I'm the kind of man that walks 10,000 steps every day, rain or shine. Let's just say that was your thing. Well, if that's true, you've already nailed who you're becoming. You're acting like that person. And then you get into, what does that guy eat like? Well,
Yeah.
I'm the kind of guy that eats high quality whole foods. What does that guy sleep like? I sleep like a rock star. I go to bed every night at the same time. I get up at the same time. I sleep in a cool, dark room. What does he drink? We recommend half your body weight in ounces of water every day. It seems funny to talk about water, but 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated. If you're not hydrated, nothing can work well. And picture your car. It's low on 1.5 quart of oil. The radiator's down. You think you're going to be a high performer?
Right.
So that's what I would do is figure out your future self. And if you want a really, really, really easy place to start, drink half your body weight in ounces of water every day. Cut out all the non-water beverages, lemonade, Arnie Palmer's, cocktails, whatever. Just try to cut it out for a week and just focus on water, ideally with some electrolytes, and watch how just that alone is going to change. You'll be amazed.
And this is what's interesting. You just listed some very simple, not easy, but simple things. This is not you need to bench 400 and be able to run through a brick wall. Maybe that's the result, but you don't need to do those things. This doesn't need to be intimidating. This is about starting and things that are simple that you can do. But I think what I heard, which is important, is not just to list those things and say that's the ideal, but to actually track them. Because if you're not tracking this stuff, if you say, I want to walk 10,000 steps a day, rain or shine, but you're not actively tracking it and holding yourself accountable, then it's just like a nice thing on a piece of paper you wrote down 11 months ago, but you're not going to do it.
Right, right. Well, I'll give you Argent Alpha in a nutshell. We call it the Alpha Triad. So at the top, picture a pyramid or a triangle. The top of the pyramid or the triangle is future self. Think of that as your North Star. On the lower left side of it is what we call the Alpha 5 areas that you set standards in: mindset, sleep, nutrition, fitness, hydration. And the lower right is something we call R.A.D for shorthand. It stands for recurring accountability drivers. And so we record our standards. Did we meet our standards for the day or not? It's just yes or no. It's binary, 1 or 0. Weekly report out within Slack in our community. You can report to an accountability buddy. You could count to your wife.
Yeah.
The point is you share what you did with somebody. And then every month we do in-body tests and we do fitness standards. Because that's like a P&L. Because, unlike in college or high school, you can cram for a test and maybe get an A.
Yeah.
You can't cram for an in-body scan. If you ate like crap for a month, I mean,
yeah, it's going to show up. Yeah.
in-body don't lie.
Yeah.
And so when
that.
you get those three things, a North Star and the Alpha 5 are kind of your daily operating instructions. And then R.A.D is your GPS, on track or off track, on course, off course. Those three things, it's just like in a business. We have a business plan. Here's how we do business every day. And we have monthly P&Ls and KPIs and those sorts of things. So I'm just stealing a lot of stuff we use in business, customizing it to men over 50 in this case. And it works for the guys who choose to. Now, that doesn't guarantee. I mean, you still got to do the work. I mean, that's the thing where there's always the 80-20 rule. No matter what, you just can't escape the Pareto principle. So we get guys who come in and, a year later, 20% of them will still be going strong, but 80% will start drifting back. And so there's this, it's a crazy phenomenon. I wish it was a cylinder. 100 guys come in, 100 guys are here a year from now.
Yeah.
I know it's not our program. Our program works. It's just resistance is really
it's just
strong.
Human nature. Yeah. Well, listen, there's something there that just like business, just like sports, just like anything else, some guys got it or can turn that switch on and hold themselves accountable and want to be accountable to others. And some, when they start getting a little resistance, it got a little bit tough. It's just too easy to make excuses and walk away from it. That's the world. I mean, that's with everything, right?
Well,
and
it's
that's
funny.
what you're experiencing.
And you mentioned excuses. I don't know if I coined this term, if I stole it from somebody, but I call it noble excuses. Hey, I gotta put food on the table.
Yeah.
Or I've worked 50 years or 40 years. It's time to relax. I've earned it. These limiting beliefs. It's like, awesome. Yeah. But why wouldn't you want to continue growing, lifelong learning? If you've lived a life of excellence, why would you all of a sudden stop living a life of excellence?
Yeah.
Or if you've lived a shitty life, why wouldn't you want to turn it around and be better for the now that you've worked so hard and you're going to live off of assets that you've worked hard to accumulate? Don't you want to have a body and a brain that are highly functioning so you can enjoy it? And so, I mean, I've heard every limiting belief and excuse, and it comes down to prioritization. And you easy life now, hard life later. Hard life now, easy life later. So choose your hard.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And the noble excuse is interesting, and that works across all age groups because I mean, same thing with people my age. Well, I have kids and we're busy and we're this, we're that. Yeah, and how many hours of football did you watch on Sunday, right? And what do you do from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night? Like there are hours out there that you could do focusing on making more money if that's what's important to you, or on your health if that's what's important to you, or something like that. It's easy to blame the kids and the schedule and the past career and all that sort of stuff. But if this stuff's really important, if that's what you wrote down when you saw your future self, there's a reason you wrote that down, right? It isn't going to be easy. So you got to hold yourself to it. I love that. And I love the noble excuses. I'm going to use that one for sure.
Well, it's funny. You didn't use these words, but you were alluding to it. We all have agency over our lives. Yeah. It's a question of whether we actually acknowledge it and exercise that agency. And this ties into Donald Miller's The Four Roles. A hero takes control, accepts responsibility, and goes out and gets the work done. Yeah. A victim blames circumstances and it wasn't their fault. And it's one of those things I use as a pattern interrupt all the time. If I'm angry or anxious or a feeling that's not great, it's like chances are I've dipped out of hero mode and either into victim or villain mode. It's like it's so when you're aware, you can snap back into hero mode,
Yeah.
stop complaining, put on your inner Jocko Willink and do the work, man. Take
Yeah.
extreme ownership and go get it done. But that separates performers from people who are just happy with being the best of the worst.
Yeah. No, you're right. And listen, this is so important. I mean, tell me or tell the listeners, let's just assume that outside of something that you can't control, this is going to make you live a longer life, harder to kill. But tell me a little bit about while you're living, how different do you feel? What are the things, even little playing with the grandkid, whatever it is that you know either yourself or guys in your program are doing now that they weren't able to do before, or they did it in a different way, right? Like just your normal life being improved by this. Forget living longer, living today is
Yeah.
being improved.
Yeah, we're very intentional about talking about health span, the quality of your years, and lifespan is the quantity. And so if you get more years, awesome. The goal is
Yeah.
just to make every year awesome. So some of the things our members will tell you, brain fog is lifted. And that's one of those things they didn't realize they had brain fog
Yeah.
until they improved their diet, improved their hydration, started lifting weights with progressive overload, shifted the mindset. So that's one thing, brain fog. Two is the other thing is just the overall thing is I'd say like it's your mojo, this zest for life. And when we've got our most senior member is 78, our youngest one is 51.
Okay.
So one guy's could have been the father of one of the other guys, and they're both over 50. And so the guy who's 78, he can do a pull up. I mean,
Yeah.
there's not many 78-year-old guys who can do a pull up. Just had one of our guys who's in his mid 60s. He's down like 40 something pounds. He's on year 2, just got his first pull up. So, I mean, you talk about perseverance.
Yeah.
So resilience goes up. So life's going to throw us curveballs all the time. Like aging parents, your kids, are they getting a job? I mean, you're in a little younger state, but you're probably, my guess is guys in their late 30s, early 40s. Is my career on track? Am I saving enough for retirement? What about the college funds? My
Yeah.
parents are aging. Am I going to have to take care of them?
Yeah.
Does my wife work or not work? I mean, do I have a mortgage? There's all these things that are going on. And so, that's another thing. And then just this pride of being able to do things and, that younger men can't. I mean, we just had
Yeah.
an event 2 weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago. There was a 5-hour physical event that included bear crawls up and down 10 different times on a hill that was about 50 yards. So one of our guys, Brian from Detroit, he'll turn 70 this year. Guy's like 9.6% body fat, blood veins popping, awesome mindset, super
Yeah.
positive guy. I mean, so the guys who do it will tell you their lives are changed for the better. They're just better physically, mentally, spiritually. They're better fathers, they're better protectors, better
Yeah.
providers, better leaders. So it's like I always say, like, well, let's flip it around. Give me all the benefits of being fat and weak. It's
Right.
like
Yeah, you're not gonna
it's
hear anything from me. No, listen, and this is geared towards your program, and your book is geared toward men over 50, and it's super important. But I can tell you for guys my age, I'm 40, gonna be 41 in November. I was similar to your story. I was an athlete, played football in college, was always in shape, was always working out. When I got out of that, it was the last thing I wanted to do was see a gym because it was like a job for me. Right. And through my 30s, I gained same thing, maybe 20, 25 pounds, desk weight, sitting behind a computer all day, that sort of stuff, and had all the same excuses, busy at work, got the kids, all the same stuff. In the last 2 years, I started taking it serious, getting back into shape. I lost 25 pounds, eating healthier. I have so much more focus and energy just from the foods that I'm eating, let alone how I
Mhm.
feel about other things. It affects everything. It's going to make you more productive at work or whatever you're doing. If you're retired, it's going to make you better in your relationships. Like it literally affects your whole entire life, no matter what age you are. But guys after 50 impacts even more because that's when they really start letting go traditionally.
Well, and I think what we've heard from a number of our members is their kids notice, their kids'
Yeah.
habits start changing. Sometimes we've got half and half. I always joke I'm second place in my house to my wife. So a lot of us have spouses who are, we're trying to keep up with them. But there's
Yeah.
been other examples where men's wives have noticed and have got on the program on their own. And
Yeah.
so that's one of the things we ask our guys, like, hey, where's your spouse at in this whole health and longevity space?
Yeah.
Because we found spouses they're one of two types: supporters or saboteurs.
Yep.
And it's a continuum. And so we tell guys, don't, this is your thing, not your wife's. Invite her along, tell her why you're doing it, make sure she's up to speed. Don't ask her to change, but if she does want to, it just makes it so much more, it makes it easier, more enjoyable, and it aligns yourself. So, I mean, my wife and I have been married now 38 years, and I tell guys, it's never been better. We're just aligned on everything. It's like,
Yeah.
it's when you've got that lined up, everything, they say,
Yeah,
they
you're
joke,
right.
happy wife, happy life. Well, it's
Yeah.
happy marriage, happy life too. It's like, it's just
That's
a
right.
big thing.
And
So,
I want I want the guys listening to this to really understand that it really is not just about living longer, but living better now. I mean, it really just until you do it, right?
mhm.
Until you start even getting close to that peak performance, you don't understand it because you've been in that fog for so long. Um, the the next transition, and then we're gonna put this on next week because we just have so much good stuff to talk about. But what I hear you saying a lot too is, which I've always preaching, that the traditional retirement needs to be reinvented. And you're talking about reinventing yourself in your life rather than going down this traditional decline, right? Just give us a little teaser into that and why it's so important. And then we're going to talk about that next week. And hopefully everybody comes back to hear it.
Yeah, well, the idea came out of when I decided to write the book, Harder to Kill. I said, well, hey, who writes one book? So I just committed, I'm writing one book a year for 5 years.
Okay.
And so, well, what would book number 2 be? And that's where I've had this mantra: reinvention, greater sign, retirement, or reinvention beats retirement. So if your health's not lined up, reinvention's not even really possible. And so let's start with the basics.
Start there.
That's the genesis of the thought. And once you become harder to kill, the world's your oyster.
Yeah.
Every single thing is possible.
Yeah, I love it. And so let's leave it there. If you want to hear more from what Scott's got to say, tell him what the best way to consume more of your info and how to reach out.
Yeah, I think the best way, the book that's in your, I love your strategic product placement. Thanks for doing that. That's awesome. Just this quick side story. One of our members, his sister-in-law, met with him and said, she read my book. She read it twice, in fact. She's like, I want this. And, I joke like, well, you're only missing, a key part of the anatomy to really be a part of this. So she has a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
Anyway, I connected with 2 other women, and they're doing a little test group on their own. So these principles, that book's written for men, but
Yeah.
the principles apply to anybody. So that's one thing. So hardertokillbook.com, go there. I'd say start with the book. If you
Absolutely.
don't want to buy the book, if you just Google Harder to Kill newsletter, you should come across my newsletter. I think I've written 156 different newsletters now. Basically everything I talk about is in that newsletter somewhere. And there's
Got it.
tons of value. Everything we do and talk about is in that newsletter. And then you can follow me on LinkedIn. I post daily. And yeah, I'd love to have anybody who's listening. I respond to messages. This is a passion play for me. So no AI robots yet. Maybe they're coming. So until then, it's me that's responding to stuff.
Yeah. No, Scott, I love it. And listen, read the book. Don't do the shortcut. Read the book. You're going to get inspired. You're going to if you walk away from that and change one thing, just to start, change one thing. That's that's when the snowball starts. Maybe it's the drinking the water. Maybe it's, for me, it was having a protein forward breakfast every day. I was a breakfast skipper. I'm too damn busy. Got to get the kids off the business. The phone's ringing. Well, I just like erased that excuse and forced myself. Now I can't imagine skipping breakfast. Like my whole day would be ruined, right?
Mm.
Just that one little change. Force yourself to do it, and all of a sudden it turns into a habit. It's going to lead to the next thing, the next thing. Read the book. It's going to get you inspired to do it.
Oh, one last thing on the book. You mentioned earlier, and I forgot to follow up. There's a QR code inside the book. Scan the QR code. There, for every chapter, there's there's a tool that you can download or interact with. Because I'm not a big just read it for the sake of reading it. Knowing and not doing is not knowing. So I'm a big doer. It's all about execution. And so that book is written to be a manual you follow and you can execute on. And so it's very hands-on. It's not theory. It's like, let's go. This is work.
And that's what I'm saying. It's going to get you motivated, but there's actual action steps in there. And that's why it's important is it's not just rah, now go, good luck. It's I can actually start implementing this stuff today and make my life better.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right, Scott, listen, I appreciate you. Again, come back next week. We got more with Scott. It's going to be awesome. Thanks, buddy.